All right, my intro music didn't quite work. I thought I had that set. So, can everybody hear me? Somebody give me a thumbs up in 30 seconds after everything buffers. And yes, my wife is in the chat. Thank you for joining, honey. All right, can everybody hear me? Cool. Thanks, Carl. So before we get to the main event, I'm going to kind of walk around the experiment and show everybody what exactly I've got set up, and then we'll get into the test. So this is the layout that I've been showing everyone. You can see all the data on the bottom of the screen, and I'll walk through that a little bit. On the left, you've got a vibration sensor that is in the box. In the middle, you've got a vibration sensor that is on the torsion bar at the top, and then two of the temperature sensors on the right. Now, you might notice that there are some peaks in there, but if you look at the numbers, we're at 248, 249, and 250 for the crossbar. When I was doing tap tests several months ago, when I would just slightly tap on the bar, I got about a 70-point jump. So these 1-point jumps are standard vibrations within the building. There's really not much going on there. In the middle, you can see the laser. Now, I have not been in the room for almost a week now. I actually have tape over the door to try and prevent any type of current going in and out. There are some things that I need to do in the room that I've been holding off, trying to gather my list of things after this test is done so I can go in there, because once I go in the room, nothing can happen for at least 2 days. I've noticed that absolutely any influence by the bar, you'll see as we get through this, I won't be able to do anything with this test for at least 2 more days because of the vibration, or because of the oscillation that is caused when I introduce the weights. So this is how the room is set up. And pardon me as I kind of check on the side chat. Yeah. Poorly drawn image here in the middle. That is what the room looks like. That's where the laser is sitting at. That's where it's bouncing to. And then I've got a close-up of the laser. I wish I had a better quality camera for that, but it's a webcam. So you can see on the right is the laser, which I have now renamed Kristen, since, you know, we have the Kristen laser beam. The middle image with the laser beam itself is very close up, very cropped in, just so we can see exactly where it is. Then here's the room in the entirety. Now, I'm keeping that laser beam on the screen as I go from screen to screen to screen, because I want you guys to kind of see that it's not moving. Over the last 2 days as I've been monitoring it, it has moved about 4 millimeters total back and forth as the day progresses. It's not a drastic change. It is a slow over the hour. So it is not actually oscillating right now at this point. And I'll mention one other thing. When this does start oscillating, the torsion value of the wire is constant, and regardless of the size of oscillation, the oscillation time is always 111 seconds. So it doesn't matter if it's going this far back and forth or going this far back and forth. It's always 111 seconds. So it's not oscillating necessarily right now, but it is moving back and forth based upon temperature, based upon something else, but it is a very, very slow and gradual movement. The sensors that are in the box, inside the box, bottom left is a vibration sensor. Top left is a temperature sensor. Back right is a temperature sensor. The white wire going around the leg on the right to the floor is another temperature sensor. And then the white wire going straight up is going to the bar that's across the room suspending everything. And I apologize if I'm missing chats, so I'll poke my head up there every once in a while. The gray bar in the middle coming straight down from the ceiling is a PVC pipe that I added from the last issue I had to protect the wire itself from any type of wind going back and forth. Because I left for a weekend and came back, and just turning on the air conditioner out here caused that to sway back and forth. It didn't cause an oscillation in the bar, it caused a sway in the wire. And then all of the electronics that you're seeing, everything was provided by Where's Wally. I cannot thank Wally enough. And if you look on the LED screen down in the front, it walks through all of the temperature sensors. And crap, I didn't write this down. So there's T1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are the 4 different sensors. And then there's an actual temperature sensor in that LCD screen, and that gives you humidity. Now, that time is GMT. So as that flashes time, it's GMT. The clock that I have attached to it is Seoul time here in Korea. Now, this is looking top down. I'm positive that I have names missing. I'm positive I do, but last week when I left the room and sealed it up, I didn't realize it till the next day when I thought, I need to go back and double check the names. But once I had it sealed, I didn't want to go back in the room because I wanted this to be a good run. So if you are anybody that has provided any type of support for this project, if you've provided material support, financial support, emotional support, comment on the video, let me know. I can add more names in there because I want to give credit to everybody that has helped out with this project. Now, here is the full image of the laser on the wall. You can see I cropped in. It's not the best image, but it's kind of what we got. The measurements on there are in millimeters. One of the things I need to do when I get back in the room is take the measurement from the pivot point of the bar to where that dot is sitting at right now. I did it on previous tests, but the laser was on a different spot. I had to move the laser. I do know that from my pivot point straight to the wall at a 90-degree angle is 2.799 meters. But I'm not sure how far to the left of the laser that is right now. So I can't do any measurements off of this until I get back in the room. Once I get back in the room, I'll be able to do some measurements. And then here is our laser close-up. Again, it's fuzzy, but you can see that we're at the 17 millimeter mark on the top right. 18 is where we're at, 19 farther. So if we're going to measure off of the very left marking of the laser, we would be at about 17.6 or so. Hey, Dan, thanks for showing up. Kind of bashful now that Dan's in the room. So that's where I'm measuring off of, is the far left point. So before we get into the experiment, one thing I want to go back through, I'm going to mark all of those spots. So that when we come back in a couple of days, we know where this started at. So I'll lock that one into place. Turn that one on. And none of this setup will change between now and then. And obviously you can come back to this video and see where the line marker was, but this is more for reference. Top down. About there. And then the most important one, the one that is super close up. So we'll call that about 17.6 or so as our starting point. Now, if we go back to the main experiment room, let me pull up. Oh crap, give me 1 second. The Arduino decided to resize itself. Give me just one moment. Oh, not flip. Okay. So even this software that I'm using, the motor I did myself, but Wally, he's the one who coded it for me. Now, the biggest fear that I have had throughout all of these has been, and I've done this several times, is sending the heavy weights the wrong direction. So as you can see, nope, you can't see. Give me a second. I've got some notes on as I was doing measurements of everything going back and forth. Right now, I'm moving 5,600 steps, and then a negative is clockwise, positive is anti-clockwise. I've screwed that up several times, and it really sucks, especially if you're in the close position, because 2 seconds later it hits the small weights, and you can do nothing with the experiment for at least 3 days. So let's bring this back up and get to the main event. So I need to go clockwise. So minus 5600. And let's go. As you can tell, I've got it set to go very slow because I do not want to induce any type of currents inside the room, inside the box. And it should stop right on the edge of that black line. That is my marker to let me know where that 5,600 was. And again, I did this back and forth several times to make sure it was right. I do believe I'm generating some kind of current inside because you can see that the weight is pushing away, and I've noticed that on virtually every test that I've run. But as soon as it starts to come back to its oscillation point and that center rest point, it should come back to the center resting point and keep going. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is things falling sideways. Now, don't get your hopes up. We will not have contact. From the test that I've done, I have never gotten contact. It will sway out. And here in a second, it's going to oscillate back, and then it will spend the next 2 days oscillating back and forth until it reaches its new center resting point. I might not have opened that far enough up, huh? Let's open that up a little bit. Hey, Robin. So it's at about its far left point, and it'll slowly come back. And like I said, for the next 2 days, it's going to oscillate back and forth constantly until it reaches that new resting point. So my plan is, in 2 days, in about 48 hours, as long as I'm back, because I'm out of town tomorrow night, as long as I'm back, I will probably do another live stream. And in that live stream, we will start in this position. We'll mark where the new resting point is, and then I'll take the weights away. And you'll see how it goes back. And then 48 hours after that, we'll check again to see if we've gotten back to this point. Hey, my kids are watching. I love you, babies. I miss you. I can't wait to be home. 3.5 more months. Give a big hug to mommy for me. So, this is my Cavendish. I was a little afraid that my weights weren't going to be big enough to cause an effect, but it appears that it does. Thanks, Kristen. So while this is oscillating for a minute, does anybody out there have any questions about the apparatus, anything about the experiment, any questions? As we're all mesmerized with the dot going back and forth. Kaladu Nano, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to measure the force because I've tried and I might be able to get AB Science to do the math on the torsion value because that's one of the key things I need is the torsion value of the wire that I'm using to know how much it's resisting this pull. And I also don't know how precisely I'm going to be able to measure. I think I'm going to be able to measure it pretty good based off of this. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to measure it pretty well, but this is going to be an extremely small angle of deflection that it's pulling at. Bo Nelson, how solid is the structure it's suspended from? Originally, it was suspended from the ceiling, which was really poor. I literally have a 2x4 that is wedged between the walls. But the only thing I could have done to make it a little bit better is if I would have doubled up that 2x4 to make it so that it wouldn't wobble any. But I've noticed that if I close the door behind me, which is the room next to the room, if I close that too hard, I do get a little bit of a vibration. It doesn't cause an oscillation. It'll cause a little bit of an up and down vibration in the laser. Thanks, Colin. Thank you, everybody, for saying hi to my family. Thank you, honey, for showing up to my streams and indulging the insanity that has become my Flat Earth channel. Yeah, and Walterman, I know it can. I'm not smart enough to do that. Concrete walls. I am in a 25-story apartment building in Korea. Concrete walls. Oh, you mean her, Kristen? Come here, bumpers. You mean her? She's getting so big. She was sleeping. Hey, bumpers. I have the door closed. That's why she doesn't get in there. No, T. Townsend, Sin. I'm not going to leave this up for 48 hours because YouTube only allows you to live stream for between 18 and 24 hours before they don't archive it. I did that before and I ran for well over 48 hours, but once the stream is done, it's gone. YouTube doesn't archive long streams just because otherwise they wouldn't have space for everything. So this is not going to live stream. My original intent had been to do like an beginning to end, but I didn't realize this oscillation is going to take 48 hours to settle. I didn't realize that when I was making my initial planning of documenting this. Cross my heart, Scout's honor, I'm not going in the room to screw with anything. Yeah, I'm on the fifth floor, Bo. I can hear my neighbors upstairs. I think they have several elephants for kids. But whenever they're jumping around, I don't notice any vibrations in the room. Syntactic? How does it feel? It's amazing. I have wanted to do this experiment for at least 15 years. I've known about this for a long time, but about 15 years ago, especially after we had the kids, I wanted to do this like in our spare bedroom on a weekend. I didn't expect it to be this in depth to actually be able to get a result. Yeah, steaming cup of reason, absolutely. I have that planned. I'm mentally kind of figuring out a lesson plan, how to walk through to teach this to kids, because obviously my kids are at home. I don't know if they understand what I'm showing them. I'll probably try and explain it to them the next time that we talk. But if I can do a quick, let's go top down. All right, kiddos, here's your science lesson for the day. Mass attracts mass. Stuff attracts stuff. The Earth is really, really big. That's why it attracts us. And that is why it attracts the moon. And that is why we are attracted to the sun. The sun is super big. Earth is really big. We're really small. So to be able to test mass, or test gravity, you have to find a way to nullify and make the Earth's gravity not affect anything. So if you're looking at this, kids, the bar that's going left and right with the little weights on it is suspended on a wire, and it can twist back and forth. So the Earth is pulling it down, but the wire is pulling it back, holding it in place. When I bring those two weights into place, those two weights, you can't really see it, are pulling the light weights closer. And I have a laser shining at a mirror at the middle of that bar, and that is what you're seeing that dot as. And the big weights coming in is what is causing that bar to start oscillating or start spinning back and forth. Maybe someday I will try to do this when I get back home. I can't promise it because this took me 6 months to set up. And we'll take a look at this again just to show that there are no more vibrations in the building. Thanks, Farmer's Boy, and thank you for following me for so long. You're like, I know I've said this before, but you're one of my first subscribers. You've been following me since I was spamming everybody on Reddit. Stuck in Florida, I actually got a warning yesterday that there was an earthquake in South Korea, and it was like a 3.2. So I don't think I really have to worry. Yeah, first time building, it's always the hardest. Now that I've got an idea of the setup, I won't have all the diagnostic stuff that Wally sent me, because once this experiment's done and I leave Korea and I head back to the family, I'll be mailing all of this stuff back to Wally. But I will still have the board for the motor and the drive, and I've got the components for that. So I'll have that so I can set that back up at home. And I would say probably about 60% of this I ordered on Amazon. Again, if anybody out there, and I'm going to try and probably pick some people that, are high on my list. Anybody out there that has donated financially or anything like that, let me know. Your name is deserved to be in the box. What are the results? I'm steaming cup of reason. What are the results I'm expecting? If I remember, because I ran this last week, I got about a 5 to 10 millimeter deflection. So where, let's see, about a 10 millimeter. So the dot should be resting about 1 dot length to the left. that's where it should stop. That's about where it was last time. But once this is done, we can take that measurement. Then we can do the math to figure out how big the angle was that deflection caused by introducing the new weights. And then just to show that, things are natural, go back to their own state, and I'm not fooling around with anything, that's when I'm going to take the weights away, and we'll see that the dot should come back to this line. Practical demonstrations, can I trust you? Sure, I can trust you. And where are you at? Steaming cup of reason as well. We've interacted enough. You're a good guy. Are there any other questions out there? And is my wife still watching? Or has she gotten bored by now? And now I have to wait 30 seconds for everything to catch up to you guys and then come back to me. YouTube is great. So we'll go to there. So John Gap, I haven't measured the center mass of both bodies. I've got the center mass of the individuals, but obviously the heavier weights are not circular, so it's a little harder to find the center mass. The distance between them, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet, because entering the room causes oscillation. So what I'm thinking I'm going to have to do is it's going to be a two-man job of getting it to this point, somebody running in there and finding a way with a tape measure to measure the distance of the starting point. Yeah, I could get them closer as well. My next, after I run with this series and everything's cleaned up and I've got everything done, I have 25-pound weights. I think they are 20 or 25-pound weights. Those will be replaced for the 40-pound weights, and they're 20 pounds because that's a 40-pound cut in half. Will be replaced with the 20-pound weights to see if the influence is smaller. And then I'm also going to put in a cardboard box about the same shape as this, do the same thing to make sure that it's not the size of the mass pushing air around in there that makes this happen. And then the last thing that my wife just sent me a text earlier in the day, why I ordered that on Amazon, is I just bought some neodymium magnets. So I'm going to put neodymium magnets in place of those and swing those into place. They're very light, but they're very powerful. So if anybody wants to claim that this is magnetic attraction, by putting neodymium magnets in there, we'll prove that it's not. At least it's not lead paint. Yeah, but remember I was drilling lead when I drilled into my hand, so I've probably got some lead flecks in there. We got some hooligans in the chat. I'm kind of impressed. Are there any other questions? Anybody else wants to see anything? Because this is going to sit. I'm not going to go in the room. I'm leaving tomorrow for a day. And this is just going to do its thing. Again, this is mass falling sideways. Yeah, originally I had other lead weights in there. The problem is getting access to different types of weights here in Korea. I just got my first super chat. Thank you, Kristen. If anybody didn't know, I got monetized about a week ago. Thanks to all of you beautiful people for some reason deciding it's good enough to follow me. Thank you, Kristen. You're in the box. Stephen Cup of Reason. I'm curious, do you have to leave the lights on in advance? And yes, so the lights have been on for over a week. That laser is a gas laser. It has been on for over a week. When I walk out of that room and make the determination that I'm not going back in, I'm not going back in. Unless there is something drastic that is going to prevent me from actually doing the experiment. Edmund Walderman, that is exactly what I was thinking as well. It's either air or a bow wave. It could be that. It would be amazing if that's it. I'm not saying that's it. Hugo, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm blushing if you can't tell. I'm blushing. I could try concrete weights, Bo. I could definitely do that. I'm going to start looking around to see if I've got any other weight alternatives. The problem is just having something that is so massive. I need something that is very dense. If anybody has access to like depleted uranium or tungsten and you're willing to mail it to South Korea, just let me know. I'm more than game to give it a shot. All right, so we've been going for about a half hour now. Except it is going to continue for the next 2 days. Hopefully, so tomorrow night I will probably create another scheduled hangout so that we can all come back, and it should be resting at that point. And if it's not, I'll push it off for another day, and as soon as it is resting, we'll take the weights away and watch it technically fall. Curve Pimp, awesome. Thank you very much. Thank everyone so much for the help. Thank you all for coming along on the ride with this. How about a couple of visual dots on tap and a couple of plastic rulers on top of the cover centers? Can be measured later. The distance calculator for that. How about a couple of visual dots on top? And a couple of plastic rulers on top of the cover. Are you, John? Are you talking about for measuring how far the bar is oscillating? Because as you can see, it's really hard to see from here. That's why you really need that laser. And all of you are just too chicken to mail me some depleted uranium. Kowsey, I think that's how you'd say your name. What's your question? As we wait for the YouTube time delay. Let's bring the dog back up while we wait. Say hello to the kids. They're watching. Are you tired? All right, one last thing. All right, that's right. So you can measure without being in the room on camera. Yeah, so the measuring it out of the room, that's what the laser's for, really. Hey, Alan. Can you put styrofoam on the big mass to ensure electrostatic force is not the reason? Okay, so my attempt at removing electrostatic is... You can go back and watch my last video. I have copper wire around everything. I've got copper wire. I don't think you can see it across the plank and underneath the metal. I've got copper wire going from the smaller weights to the center suspension point, and then at the top of the bar, and all of that is going to the earth wire in my house. So should not be a problem, I hope. But that's also some of the pieces that you see hanging in there are dryer sheets. So that is supposed to pull out some of the static electricity in there. And obviously I can't guarantee it's not staticky in there, but I've got no reason to believe that's the cause either. Thanks, Kristen. Emin Walderman, I go home right now. Technically, it's supposed to be October 15th, but I'm pushing it back to the middle of November so that when we move to DC, we can show up in DC over Christmas and not have to pull the kids out of school early. So like the 23rd of November is when I'm actually going to be leaving country and heading back home and spending a month packing a house and moving cross country with 2 dogs, 3 dogs, 2 cats, and 2 kids. The dot is starting to talk to me. Oh, and Bo, it's not like you can't write Nathan Oakley on the box. Not like you can't write Nathan Oakley on the box as the sender. It's the damage posted is gonna. So I have a video about Nathan Oakley coming out soon. That was supposed to come out tonight. I made some changes to it tonight. Nathan Oakley response to him calling me a moron repeatedly over on Ranty's channel. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Oh yeah, Nathan Oakley owes me £1. Yeah, he dared me. He bet £1 that I wouldn't. That I would delete his comment. I didn't delete his comment. I pinned it to the top, and then I responded because he's a moron. Somebody's really getting rowdy there in the chat as the dot talks to all of us. Now I feel like it's Hypnotoad. Now I need the sound from Hypnotoad. All right, it looks like we're getting a little rowdy in the chat. So, seems like everyone's. All right. No more mod. Dang it. You don't need to be silly. Yeah, I think I accidentally made a flat earther a mod. I'll remember your name. Thanks. So that is about it. It is 11:15 or so my time. I'm going to be heading to bed. And I hope everybody enjoyed this. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you to my beautiful wife and my amazing kids for joining. And as a quick little goodbye. See y'all later, guys.